Cool, we're live, man.
What's going on, everyone?
What is up?
Greeno, we got another special guest.
Yeah, we got Corey, Just Add Vinyl.
What were you guys thinking?
It's Just Add Vinyl now. How many names have you had for your channel?
Good question. I've had 3. It started out as Overkill Vids.
That's how I changed it. That's how I have you in my phone, Corey Overkill Vids.
Yeah, I started a YouTube channel like 2007. Thought it'd be cool to have like Overkill Vids, and then it changed to Corey's VC channel because the only reason why I had subscriptions was because of the vinyl community. And then I don't know. It's just so many things were going on in the vinyl community that by having vinyl community in my name, it kind of meant that I was signed up for all of it when I didn't agree with all of it. So I kind of switched it over to the Just Add Vinyl. A little bit cheesier, but it's not as bad as Vinyl Eyes, right?
No, that's cool, man.
Yeah, I found Corey when he was still Overkill.
Yeah, definitely. Right off the bat.
He was probably one of the first ones that, besides LJ and you, I think Corey was like one of the first, at least one of the first 5 that I still actually watched on YouTube.
Old school days.
Yeah, probably 8 years ago now.
Yeah, at least.
Oh yeah, I think I'm 9 years this year.
I was 7, I think, and I think Greeno, you were 8, right?
Somewhere in there. I think I started 2012, maybe 2011. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I know. I was, well, whatever it is. I know I'm a year after you. It's crazy how time flies. Weird.
It was so cool getting into it and finding everybody, but damn, it was like the Wild West, man, trying to find, everybody that was doing these VC videos. And it seemed like every month or something, a couple more cool guys would pop up, and it just kept going. And, and then you had all these different little subgroups. Everybody got along great. Everybody, I guess, still gets along great.
Yeah.
But you had these little subgroups, and everybody would kind of reach out from there. And it was a great deal, man.
Until all the original guys started leaving. They're not doing videos anymore.
That's kind of how even message boards work. I remember back in the day, people would come and go and pop back in all of a sudden for a little while, then go again. So yeah, VC's probably doing the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we just had Vance VK join us. Zep Pearl. He's one of the ones that go back pretty far. What's up, Vance? It's really good to see you.
What's
up, John's record rack too. What's up, John?
Yeah, I think I watched Vance for a long time ago too. Right? I think we all.
Yeah,
he was Vance.
He was early on, man.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Zep Pearl. And he still does videos occasionally. I was talking to him last night. Definitely want to have him on the show. So
cool.
And John's record rack. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with him, or maybe I'm just not putting the name to the face.
John and I have become really good friends over the last 1.5 to 2 years. He's out in Denver, so he's newer to the vinyl community. But he did a record room tour video a couple 3 years back, and outstanding collection, and just doesn't make videos as much as we used to. But definitely a great guy, and he sent me some awesome VCLT, and we've been working together on some different podcasts and stuff. So it's a really great guy.
Right on. Yeah, Ben said he started 2012, so that's him and I are probably about the same time.
Yeah,
so he's an old schooler.
Man, I took some notes, and I knew we would be talking about this, so I went and looked up to see how far back the vinyl community went.
Right.
And the oldest video that I can find is Mr. Hall of Fame, Brandon, at like 2008.
Wow.
And then,
yeah, I know he's been a
long time. And then Super West. I didn't know he went back this far west. He went all the way back to 2009.
Wow.
And well, some guys are actually going too, like that Dan in Canada. He was the very first one I found. But when he left, he just took everything down. You know what I mean? And
that's the one I was asking you about last week, wasn't it?
You were thinking about Octavio, which is, guess I'm just.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He was an early guy too. And Punk Texas was early, John.
Yeah.
So And LJ was before me. Laz was before me. So
yeah. Well, I think Corey's channel drew me into him hitting up all the different record stores.
Nice.
Oh, man. Love those record store videos he would do.
Yeah, that's what, because when I first joined, that's what I was looking for. Like, oh, I'm heading to Ohio this weekend, hit an Ohio record store, and then look it up. And
yeah,
I think Corey's was probably has to be one of the first videos that I saw of somebody actually going in and reviewing a record store basically while you're there. It was cool.
Well, I think Corey and I are the ones that have I've hooked up the most with. What have we got together? How many times? 4 or 5 times, probably, Corey.
That sounds a little high. I didn't know it. I thought we've only got together twice, once in Kentucky and then once at your place.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, in Pittsburgh. So yeah, that's right. 3 times we were at Mancave Records and we hit Ides, didn't we?
Yeah. I thought there was one more. Maybe I'm exaggerating.
I know we did Louisville, right?
Yeah, Louisville and Pittsburgh, definitely. Maybe it is 3. And then you guys were here.
Yep.
And I think I've hooked up with you, George, twice? Was it your place? Then we went.
Yeah, but I've been telling you, I was coming down to your house, I think every year now for the past 8 years.
Lazy ass.
If I didn't have to work on the weekends every weekend, it would be great. But right now I do, for the most part. That should be ending at least for a little while. But then come March again, the one owner of the store, he does the Olympics and then he does the March Madness right after.
Mm-hmm.
His other job, he's a statistician for CBS. So he does the NFL all year long. So
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So when I cover his hours, I'm there almost it should be 7 days a week, but like today Dave's there, next Sunday I'll probably work, right. That kind of thing. But
we'll make it happen eventually.
Oh yeah, I know. He got to stop work. Usually this time of year is when he starts slowing down a bit until March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, this year he has the Olympics. He has the March Madness, and then he always does Little League World Series.
Oh.
That's why we usually close for 2 weeks in August. So that's like a second free vacation for me. So
oh yeah, right on.
Because it's dead around this area. It's completely shut down. It's crazy. Yeah, because everybody around here that lives around here has money.
Uh-huh.
I live in a pretty not fancy, but a wealthy area.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I still live in a wealthy area is because we've owned this house for over 30 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess we're the old
money.
The old money, but with no money.
Yeah.
So, as soon as the kids graduate, we're gone. I don't know where yet, but we've talked about it for the past 5 years, like either somewhere warm or somewhere up in the mountains that I can go fishing every day.
Well, there's a couple houses here in the neighborhood for sale. I'll let you know.
Well, if you can get me a job too, I'll come down there.
We'll probably end up divorced in about 5 years.
You and I.
That's every time I get on my wife.
Hose, man.
Every time I get on my wife's nerves, she's like, "Why don't you go up and see George for a couple days?"
Dude, you're more than welcome. This week at 2:00 in the morning, I'll hear, "Yo, it's me. It's Greeno. Open
up." All right, we're starting out. I thought I'd talk to Corey here a little bit about his music background, how you got into everything, and how you got going as a kid.
Oh my gosh, you're putting it in my court. So wow, I haven't thought about this in a while. So let's see.
Probably since we did the DVD, 6 years ago?
Yeah, the Metal Obsession collecting records.
Oh, you mean that one?
Yep.
Here it is.
Pulled that out.
That was so much fun. If people don't realize, Corey put that whole thing together for the most part. He edited everything. And
oh yeah, he put a ton of work into that, man.
And if you don't know what it is, I guess people can still Google it, or
maybe we can put a link in it here at the end.
I don't even know if it's still available. I guess it is.
Yeah, it's still there.
All right, cool.
So Miko actually made a separate YouTube channel for that. And then I had uploaded it to that channel. It's still there, and it's got over 25,000 views. It's
still there. That's cool. I thought for some reason they asked you to take. Didn't they ask you to take it down for a while?
It was down for a little while to help Rock sell the DVD, and then we put it back up.
Okay, cool. I just assumed it was still down. I had no idea it was back up. That's awesome. But
now, if anybody's watching doesn't know what we're talking about, what year was it we did that?
So I thought that was about 4 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, probably 4.
Basically, it was all a bunch of the guys in the VC metal community at the time. Just kind of got together. And I can't remember who I was talking to about doing this. I think it might have been Aaron or LJ. And I was like, man, it'd be cool if we could just all like film our own little segments, come up with questions, put them together and make like a little documentary about how we got into everything. And then I think we got with Corey, and Corey kind of does some of that stuff. And it was like, let's do it.
Yeah, Corey. I mean, as far as I knew, Corey, other than sending the videos to him, Corey did the whole thing himself.
Yeah, we all recorded our stuff and like, here you go, Corey, go.
It's so funny too, because if you look at my videos, I went back and looked at it, and I'm like, who the hell am I talking to? Like when in between cuts, it's not in the actual movie, the documentary, but just the clips I sent to Corey.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I was like, oh, that's right. I was pretending like I was talking to my wife, like she was reading me the questions. That way I have time to go back to the camera and hit pause or hit, you know what I mean? Because if people didn't know, it looked like I was talking to myself. I'd be like, look at this fucking idiot. Like he's in there, he's talking to himself. He's asking himself questions.
So yeah, that was one of the challenges to doing that video was everyone was sending their video clips in from all around the world. And how do we do it? Do we stare straight into the camera, or do we have someone ask us the questions, or look off to the left? So that was one of the downsides. But I still think I think it came out all right. Like somebody
it looks better. And I think that's the reason why I was looking off. Like, well, if I look off to the left, people are going to think I'm talking to myself. So I'll just like, yeah, okay, let's wrap this up or next. Pretend like somebody's there. That's Hollywood for you.
Well, anyways, we got off there. Get back to Corey.
So I grew up in the Midwest, suburban neighborhood. My earliest memories of music are like my mom even put in the baby book something about Corey likes soft music or something like that. So I liked music right from the day one. And then like kids music, gospel music, Christian contemporary music. And my dad had a very diverse record collection. So we had we had this typical 70s stereo setup with speakers, and I remember Bob Seger, Santana. He even had jazz records, and music was played all the time. And so that I think that just kind of planted the seed right there. I like to listen to headphones and play DJ and record to tape recorders and play 45s. When I was little, the Disney records, and then I got older and liked. I don't know if you guys remember Convoy, the old Breaker 19.
Nice.
Yep. So I'm like 5-6 years old, playing that over and over. And so that's how I got started.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. C.W. McCall.
C.W. McCall, that's it.
I think that's how I got started. I remember running around the playground in second grade. I don't know if you ever played a game where guys would lock arms and you'd say, "We don't stop for nobody," and kind of march around the playground challenging people to fights. We would do that, and we would sing AC/DC's TNT. I didn't even know what AC/DC was, but I think some of the seeds were planted then. But yeah, so and then after we moved, Mom and Dad put away the records and all that, and it was all cassettes for a while. And influence from different, somebody's older brother, somebody's older sister had tapes, and I went for the glam metal big time because it was Poison. Rat's really not glam, but the Poison, Rat, Motley Crue, all of that. I was in head over heels. I thought that was heavy metal. I thought that was the heaviest music I ever heard of. Quiet Riot, those kind of things. Bride, I was exposed to the band Bride, which was pretty extreme for me at the time. And just kind of went from there and discovered Metallica, and then just catching up. In the 90s, I went back like in high school. music for me was a lot less interesting. So I started going back and getting into classic rock, all the Led Zeppelins and the Pink Floyd and all that kind of stuff, and Allman Brothers even. And then I think a lot of heavy metal after that. Pantera opened the door, Metallica, Megadeth, and then Slayer. Once I got into Slayer, it was pretty much all over. Everything else was like weak. I don't want to hear that stuff anymore. Put that,
right.
Everything else is just put it away and move forward. But music's just been an integral part of my life from the beginning. And I think 2007, in 1994, when I got married on my honeymoon, we went to Canada and I bought a stack of records up in Canada.
Yeah.
And they were always under my bed and I break them out at parties. And so I guess fast forward to 2007, I bought a record, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Framed. And then fast forward to 2010, started picking up turntable and getting records again, and then discovered the vinyl community, and the rest you guys know about.
Yeah. Right on. Aaron's in the chat. He asked what your thoughts are on Theater of Pain. He's loving that album. He keeps spinning it, he told me.
I saw the pictures online.
I saw the thumbnail, Aaron. I saw that thumbnail. I haven't watched the video yet, so I thought you were just going to lay into it. I thought you were just going to
destroyed it, dude. He destroyed it. I knew he would.
We told him not to do it. I told
him to spin it. I knew he would be. I ate it.
Yeah, that one's in my collection and on the shelf, and I don't revisit it. But 12-year-old Corey, I played that thing all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite, and we talked about this. Not to get back on this freaking album again, but I wasn't a huge fan of it at the time. But now I went back and listened to it. It's like, you know what? It's not as bad as I remember it being. It's still a great album.
I saw your post this weekend too. I was like, Jesus, Greeno's listening to Theater of Pain. I am not listening to Theater of Pain.
Pull it out.
Nope.
But what was like the first big band you went head over heels for?
Oh, probably Metallica.
Okay, I was going to ask, like, if you don't mind, how old are you?
Well, let's see, probably Motley Crue. Probably Motley Crue is one of the first bands, probably about 12 years old. We moved in 1985, 86 to my newer neighborhood, and the neighbors across the street were so cool. Their mom was divorced, and so she was gone, and we just had the run of the place until she got home from work. They were building skateboard ramps out front, and we became really good friends with them. They had the coolest bikes, the coolest three-wheelers and motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And of course the music was there too. So I go over there and they have Motley Crue posters, Wasp, all of that kind of stuff. And then that was when I got a big exposure to all of that. And I think Motley Crue is probably one of the early bands besides Quiet Riot and all of that. Metallica, cool. Love Metallica, saw them in 91 and loved that out, loved Metallica, and then started to kind of fade away after 90 with the Black Album, or 91 with the Black Album. But
all right, that's cool. I'm kind of the same way. Like I was in elementary school and my friends had older brothers in the mid 70s, late 70s. So that's how I found Kiss. It's always through somebody, you know what I mean? It was like, they kept coming in and talking about Kiss and drawing pictures of the makeup. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I have no idea. And then I had a cousin that had a couple albums and took off from there.
That was my older cousin John. He turned us on to Kiss. Me and my cousin Donnie are only about 2 months apart age-wise. So, and he's a year and a half older than us. But we would go over there in the summer. He'd be playing Kiss, and that's how the whole AC/DC obsession started with me. It was because of John and Donnie.
That's cool. Yeah, mine was, like I said, with the Kiss around Double Platinum, Love Gun, Alive 2 era, right around in there is when I jumped on as a little kid. And I remember first time I heard AC/DC was in elementary school. You were allowed to bring a record in and everybody could play a song, and somebody brought in Highway to Hell and the teacher's like, we're not gonna be able to listen to this one today. And I'm like, I got to hear that album. You know what I mean? So
that's so funny that you said that, because when I was in second grade, I went to Catholic school, and it was like, go ahead, I don't remember if it was specifically bring an album in or if it was just bring any, your favorite thing in right now.
Right.
And I brought Gene Simmons' solo album.
There you
and
go.
handed it to a nun, and she showed it. The Gene Simmons of all ones to bring was the Gene Simmons one with the blood,
Right.
and he's the demon, and so
Were you able to play it?
oh no.
That's
She
awesome.
took one look at that and was like, "Oh, now we know why you are the way you are." Needless to say, I stopped going to Catholic school in 6th grade.
That's great. All right, so we were kind of going to discuss music biographies, live concerts, DVD kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a loose topic for this episode. So, if anybody would like to jump in, Corey, you want to go first?
Yeah, man, Corey goes first.
So got a lot of metalheads here on screen and here in the comment section. So the first one I think of when I'm thinking metals, the Death documentary is probably one of the most recent ones I could think of too. It was just killer. Have you guys seen that? Not a lot of video and pictures available when that came, of that time. But the way they're doing the editing nowadays, they're cropping it, and the camera is like flying through the images. And just the amount of information and really opened my eyes and to the band Death and how pioneering, Chuck was at that time.
Yeah, that was a great documentary.
That's cool. I haven't seen that. I'll be honest, just up front, I'm not a Death fan, but man, I get the whole respect for the band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not either, but for some reason, I just any metal documentary I watch, either if I like the band or not,
I'm the same way, and I can almost watch any music documentary.
Right.
You know what I mean? For the most.
That was a good one. That was a really good one.
I'll have to check that out. That's cool. Now that you say that, it seems like I've seen something about maybe it was part of that, because weren't they talking about like at one point Chuck wouldn't go overseas and
I think it was basically more. I mean, it was Death, and the title is under Death. But I felt more that the documentary was more about Chuck than anything.
Okay,
good point.
Maybe I've seen some of that because it's kind of ringing some bells.
I think that's why I really liked it a lot too, because it did give you the whole complete history of Death and how many lineup changes they had over the years. But I felt like it was more. I got more information out of the Chuck story than I did the actual Death story, if that makes sense.
If I remember right after watching that, it seemed like he kind of just screwed himself. You know what I mean? Every time he got to a point where he could have taken the next step, he would do something stupid or.
I mean, I'm no doctor, but it seemed like he would get real manic over that stuff, and I mean, Greeno knows I've been battling depression for like 4 years, heavy, and I most likely think he was battling a lot of depression or something. Something wasn't quite right with him there,
right?
And unfortunately, that was crazy. That whole end of his life.
Yeah, it definitely had ego that you see typically, like your Roger Waters or he's definitely dominates in the studio where he's got a vision. And if you're not on board with that, you can get out. But, you mentioned depression and I know Chuck had the brain tumor. Mm-hmm. My daughter had a brain tumor and it was removed back in 2016. Wow. And so, but right leading up to that, she was dealing with lots of depression and unexplainable behavior. And we were seeing counselors like not knowing what to do. And I wonder how much the brain tumor was pushing on things and driving that behavier.
Good
That's
question.
A great point.
Wow. Well, I hope she's doing good now, huh?
She's doing really well. She's the mother of my grandson, my first and only grandson. So she's doing real well. She's a great mom, and she's still dealing with some challenges from that. Mm-hmm. But as far as she won't be able to drive. But other than that, she's really working hard and taking the steps necessary to move forward in life, and still wants to go to school and all that. I'm real proud of her.
That's good. Right on.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But that's my biggest fear as a parent is something like that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad she's doing great now, but God, I can't imagine. My little guy, he had an abscess in the back of his throat, like in his neck when he was 2 years old, and that was crazy because we didn't know what it was, and he was losing weight. He couldn't turn his head, and it's like, oh, shit, you know. And then we had to take him like to the children's hospital and all that stuff, and they found out what it was, but it was crazy. It was nuts, scary. So I can't imagine what you were going through.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. And it was, obviously this is weird because I would never even thought I'd even bring it up. But here we are in the conversation, start talking about, Chuck and that what happened with him. Those kind of things. I just keep making the VC videos and keeping them, kind of positive and on the surface level. So I never shared that with anybody outside of a close friends. And I don't want to get into it too much, but she's doing well. It was a nightmare to go through, and we're not the only ones that have to go through that. But I'm definitely more empathetic to parents that are dealing with that these days.
Right. Well, I'm glad she's doing good, man. And obviously, if you and the family ever need anything, don't be afraid to reach out, or all of us are always here too.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm usually here in my room. So,
all right, you got anything, George?
As far as biographies go, the coolest one I think I've seen in a while. I mean, I've read in a while. I don't know DVD wise, but book wise is the Bon Scott one. Yeah, it's the Bon Scott book.
That's cool. That was that just came out not long ago, right?
Yeah, Jesse Fink wrote it about 2 years ago now, and it went real heavy on his past as a childhood and the not the Easy Beats, the Valentines and the I can't remember Fraternity,
right on
other bands. So it was a lot of that, and then obviously all the AC/DC stuff. But then the night of his death, that whole story was really pretty crazy. I don't know. He found the guy that left Bon in the car. All that kind of stuff. So,
right.
It was a crazy.
Did they clear up any of the? Sorry to interrupt, George. Did they clear up any of that stuff about the lyrics that were written for Back in Black? And there was a rumor going around that he had some lyrics written and they took it.
From what I always understood, that they didn't use any of the lyrics. But I mean, as a huge fan of AC/DC, you read those lyrics on Back in Black, at least me anyway, and I can't say that they're not Bon Scott's lyrics, at least some of them. Just the way they're written and the way they're laid out and the way the rhyming is and the different words that he would use. It's weird. It's weird. Especially You Shook Me All Night Long. That song, if Bon Scott didn't write the lyrics to that song, then he possessed Brian Johnson the night he wrote them. That's the book. Last time. Yeah, that's a great book.
I'll check it out.
They got good reviews, if I remember right.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people, I think a lot of diehard AC/DC fans had a problem with the way he portrayed Bon in the book as being a heroin addict and an alcoholic. And one of those two things may have killed him that night, if not both. But what I think the book fails to mention as far as the heroin goes is heroin in the 70s was completely different than the heroin of today. Like it was a designer drug then, like cocaine. So when people read that he was a heroin addict, makes me think of like some junkie laying in the street somewhere with a needle in his arm kind of guy. And he wasn't like that. And that's kind of like, if you don't know the difference between the way the heroin was in the 70s and the way it is now, I could see why people would be really pissed off at that book, because he doesn't make the distinction between how different the times were and how different the, I guess, product was. And that's the only thing that, after I read it, I'm like, man, that really made him sound like a junkie.
Huh.
But I don't think he was. I mean, maybe he was. I don't know.
I'll have to watch for that one. Sounds pretty interesting.
It's a good book. Yeah, it's a really good book. And like DVD wise, I think I haven't really watched any. They were cranking out music documentaries for like it seemed like 5 a month. Yeah. I think the latest one that I saw that I really liked was the Joan Jett one. I think it's called Bad Reputation.
I haven't seen it yet, but they have so many poor quality documentaries out there. They're just god awful and lousy editing. Some of them still have the old 4:3 format, and then you got to just go through them. And every now and then you stumble onto like a diamond in the rough.
Right. Well, that one's like official authorized biography on her. So that's, it's good. It's a really good one. I think the MVD distribution, I think it's through them, which I know exactly what you mean, Corey, about the documentaries that are so good. A lot of them you can get at MVD too, like they have those just cheap quality movies and CDs, but the Joan Jett one is really good.
I'm surprised at the amount of documentaries on Amazon Prime, music documentaries.
Oh, I know. And
because I never paid attention to that. We just got Prime, for the shipping and all that. And like over the last year and a half, really got looking around on there. It's like, wow, man, there's a shit ton of cool old music documentaries and old movies and all that stuff.
I do the same thing. I look and then I forget. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should go on Prime and see what they have. But
yeah,
I never do.
Well, speaking of books, it's been, I guess, back when it first came out, the Brian Slagle book about Metal Blade Records. That was pretty good. I mean, I don't know if either one of you have read that.
I never got that one. No.
Yeah, it was okay. It's not like crazy in depth as far as, calling anybody out, but it's a good kind of overview of just, how he got Metal Blade up and rolling, And
absolutely. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, one of the things I liked about that book, great book. I bought the package that came with a cassette tape. It's a metal compilation. The only way to get it was to order the book, autographs. Cool. Yep, and it comes with a cassette tape. It's pretty cool. But so Slagle, let's see. Shoot, I'm starting to get it confused with Megaforce. So was Slagle the one with the Metal Massacre, and he went over with a handful of records over into England without a penny to his name. Yeah. And he's on the plane with an armful of these records to try and distribute. He didn't know how he was going to eat when he got there. Those were that was pretty cool. Like you said, it was an okay book. I think when you put it in conjunction with a lot of the other ones that are out there by Pop Off and some of the other ones that are starting to surface, like Johnny Z from Megaforce, it kind of puts together this whole story, that we weren't aware of when we were living it. So it's good stuff.
Speaking of the Johnny Z, I'm kind of in the middle of it now, Megaforce Records. I'm on the fence on this one because he just, it's almost just him rambling on and not really getting any information out. It's almost like stuff we already know, dude. You know what I mean? How about giving us a little insight further in? Have you read that?
Yeah. I got the autograph one there on that one too.
That's cool.
So yeah, I agree, Greeno. It's not that good of a book, but I think that he has some limitations and he dealt with some mental issues through the years. I think it gives you definitely give you some behind the scenes what he was thinking and feeling at the time.
Yeah,
and I think one of the highlights for me was understanding better the relationship that he had with Anthrax and how they left on good terms despite the pressure from the label and how he couldn't fire them and they couldn't quit. So the Anthrax stories in here are really good, but I think overall, it's probably only a 5 out of 10 as far as some of the other ones I've read. But I think it should be on everybody's bookshelf, all of the metalheads.
Yeah, especially if you're an old school metal guy, it's worth checking out. And like I said, I'm halfway through it, and I probably haven't read anything out of it in a couple weeks. I need to get back to it and just finish it. It's, again, like you said, it's a 5 out of 10. It's not the greatest book, but it's pretty cool. But I just wish he would have went a little more in depth. And it almost, to me, reading it, it almost sounded like he needed somebody helping him with this book. It almost feels like he did this all by himself. To somebody to kind of guide him a little more. Hey, you need a little more information here. This was interesting. Go a little bit further with this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Aaron's weighing in, says he thought the book sucked.
Yeah.
Oh, the Metal Blade one.
Oh, he didn't like the Metal Blade either. Okay. I remember telling him that's right, because he said he didn't like that one. I was like, well, definitely stay away from the Johnny Z book, because it's worse than the Metal Blade book. So
yeah, agreed.
I pulled out a few DVDs, but a good documentary is Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
Oh, shit,
classic. Yeah.
But everybody probably knows about this. If you don't, it was filmed at the Capitol Center in DC for Judas Priest and Dawkins
was there.
concert. Huh?
Greeno, you were there, weren't you?
Yeah, I was there. Luckily, unluckily, whatever. I'm not in the video, but it's a cool, like, little picture of that era. I mean, it's over the top, of course. But the cool thing with this also is some of the bonus stuff. Like, I think they call it the Heavy Metal Basement. A visit
I've
to
seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's a local dude. I can't remember his name now. I see him all the time around the record shows, or I used to when I went. But yeah, he's in the whole little metal circle around here. But a hell of a collection. And, it's kind of cool to watch him go through all of his stuff. It's just like a good little bonus thing on there. And it almost reminds me, or makes me think of, wow, it's like a VC video kind of that never made it to the VC,
Exactly. What an amazing collection. And he's going through, he has the whole entire Judas Priest discography, plus the 12 inches, the original Painkiller. I didn't know if I don't remember now if it went to Demolition or Jugulator, but it was really very entertaining. And I love going back and watching that. That's probably one of the top 10, top 5 metal documentaries of all time, just for what it is.
To be honest, that the Heavy Metal Basement is probably more fun to watch than Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Like, if you get this disc, but the Heavy Metal Parking Lot was like such an underground thing for years, man. The only way you could get this was bootleg trading and all that, VHS and everything. And then all of a sudden to hear that it was coming out on DVD, it's like, absolutely, man. You got to pick that up.
I probably still have my original VHS of that.
Yeah.
Like, just a copy of it.
Well, it wasn't until years later, probably, what's that show? 85, 6, somewhere around in there. And I never knew anything about it until probably the mid 90s.
Oh, yeah. I didn't find out till way late.
Yeah. Somebody's like, yeah, it's called Heavy Metal Parking Lot. They did a documentary there. And I'm like, well, I was at that freaking show, man. Christ, I hope I'm.
Yeah. And then you watched and you're like, thank God I'm not in there.
Yeah. All drunk and stupid.
Oh, my God. They picked some real winners to interview in that one. Holy shit.
Yeah. I think that was kind of the point of it.
Obviously. Yeah.
So, all right. What you got next, Corey?
I could tell you some stories of being backstage with the last time I went out on tour with Brittany was 2000, but even then some wackos out in the crowd that would make you nervous.
I don't know. I could just read off a few that stand out to me, and then we could just kind of pick up one that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But back in 2003, Tom Dowd and the Language of Music. So Tom Dowd is the sound engineer for the Allman Brothers, Fillmore East, for example. And it's an amazing behind the scenes look of this, how awesome this guy was. He went from being a nuclear he was involved in the Manhattan Project. And after he was involved with that, he went to college and he couldn't even finish college because the what they were teaching in school was so far behind what he already knew. So he dropped out and got into music, and just spent a lifetime being an engineer, and then also kind of stepped into the role of being a producer. So when Cream was recording some of their classic stuff, he was there influencing the band. That's kind of what the narrative of the DVD is, how he was able to influence some of the bands and making the decisions they made in the studio. But that's outstanding. Anybody else seen that?
No, I've never seen.
I haven't seen that one, but it reminds me a lot of the Muscle Shoals documentary, just by the way you're describing it. That, like the Muscle Shoals, and what was the Greeno? You know the other one that did like the Beach Boys Pet Sounds album?
Not sure.
They have that whole crew. That's the crew, the Wrecking Crew. There we go.
The Wrecking Crew, and that's an excellent one. And Muscle Shoals is fantastic.
Yeah, those two documentaries are out of the last 10 years, I would say they're probably one of my top 5 for sure.
What was the one that the guy from Nirvana, Foo Fighters?
Well, Foo Fighters, that's Sound City. That came out in 2013. Had interviews with Vinny Appice, Tom Petty, Lars, and Rick Rubin on it.
That was
got my notes right here.
That was a good one too, man. I really like that.
I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan, but that made me buy that record.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, the first 2, that was the 7-part series thing.
Right? No. That's a different one.
Oh, that's the one I'm thinking, where they
what's
recorded in each studio.
Sound City's where he buys the old sound equipment and moves it into his house, and then you see it has interviews with like Stevie Nicks and Billy,
that's right.
Or not Ricky Springfield. Where you're talking about is Sonic Highways, which was that HBO series. I mean, that had Bowie. That was incredible. That was my introduction to Rocky Erickson. I'm sorry, I didn't know about Rocky Erickson until I saw the documentary. Yeah, cool. It's true. It's true. But Rocky Erickson, I mean, just focusing on city by city, and Dave when he was a kid in the punk scene in Chicago and Seattle. That's an incredible documentary. And the best part about that is you watch it with your girlfriend, watch it with your wife or your friends, and they usually will watch it along with you. Like my wife didn't want anything to do with death. She walked away. I had to watch that one alone.
Well, that's interesting. Both of those documentaries, I guess, kind of roll together for me. You know what I mean? I've seen both. I've only seen them once, I guess, both, or each of them. But I like both of them a lot, man. Very cool. And I'm kind of the same way. I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan either, but total respect to him, man. He's like kind of the last rock star. You know what I mean? I don't know if there'll ever be any more.
He's everything that Jack White wants to be.
It's a good statement, dude. I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I see Dave Grohl, and the reason why I'm so biased to Jack White nowadays is dealing with third man music. Not the friendliest people to deal with.
Really?
Especially for the record store. They're just, whoever the crew he has down there working in the offices, he needs to, well, at least a year ago, needs to rethink his, whoever's working there. But
right.
Dave Grohl's the kind of guy, like I said, Jack White couldn't hold Dave Grohl's jockstrap, man, when it comes to the knowledge, the history, and the heart that Dave has for the music, where I think Jack White has certain aspects of it, but he doesn't have the heart that Grohl has, I think. I mean, I could be way off on it, but no. I wish Grohl would jump all in and hey, let's start a record plant and a label and all that shit. So
I've never been a White Stripes fan. I mean, a couple songs I've heard are cool, but I don't understand
one song I really dig.
Yeah, like everybody just goes nuts over that band. And it's like, all right, they're not. I don't hear anything groundbreaking with that band. Like seems like most people do. It was kind of cool that he's so into vinyl and all that, and got Third Man rolling and everything, which is cool. But hate to hear that they're not fun to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we just had like a real bad time with the company, and like I said, I've never been a huge Jack White fan either, but that even put a bad taste in my mouth after dealing with them. So a worse taste in my mouth, I should say.
So yeah, with Jack White, I appreciate Jack White a lot. I have a lot of respect for him and all the work that he's done. He's done a lot of work because he has the money, but like you said, maybe he is trying to be someone like Dave. But I went on like this whole Jack White thing about 2004, where I just love the raw blues, like Black Keys, Jack White. I got over it very quickly, but I do, it makes sense. When I went down to Nashville and I walked into Third Man Records, they told me I couldn't shoot video in there. Like, put the camera away. What are you doing? They wouldn't let me go back and look in the back hallways. So yeah, I got a really bad reception there at Third, for the people that work for him too. Wow. So you could definitely, I could see some limitations with Jack White. Everything is out there. You can see some of his limitations if you watch some of his videos. It definitely has an ego issue there. A little bit of an elitist attitude when it comes to vinyl and vintage. He owns it a little bit too much, like he's trying to project it out. But then you compare that to Dave Grohl, who's just passionate. He's just aw shucks. happy-go-lucky. He's just a fan. He's the fan's fan, right? Great musician, does his projects. He has time for anybody. He has time for a little kid on the street, like you saw in the documentary. Bringing a young fan off the street to bring it and show him around the studio. You don't see that too often. And I think.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
The one album he did, was it Probot or whatever? We had all the different.
Yeah, the Probot project. That was like '04 too, wasn't it?
Probably. Yeah, it's been a while. And it's like to hear him talk about it. He was like, man, I was just writing these songs and I would hear vocalists in my head. So the song would kind of go that direction. So when I was done, I just called everybody, say, hey, you want to come over and put vocals down on this? Jesus, he had what? Lemmy, King Diamond. There was just like a crazy list of people, And I think it wasn't, hey, I need to get all these people, to prop me up. It was, hey, I love all these guys. I want to do something with them, kind of
big time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of say. I mean, I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan. I like the first album or two. And, at the time I dug Nirvana. I still dig Nirvana. But
what's the Blue album cover one?
For
the shape.
Foo Fighters?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you, dude.
I think I like that record the most.
Yeah. Foo Fighters to me, album. The Foo Fighters are like Weezer. They would have an awesome greatest hits album.
Right.
I don't need the whole discography.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
I did like their Saint Cecilia project. I actually didn't like Wasting Light. That was the first album that they recorded on that vintage stereo equipment, which I liked the songs, but they distorted the drums. Why did you distort the drums? Because you have vintage electronics doesn't mean the drums should sound like crap.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're trying to be I don't know. I don't know what they're trying. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say like a hipster, but they want to try and be real hip and
keep up.
Do something different. We're gonna distort the drums, like Saint Anger.
I was just getting ready to
That album would have been great if the drums sounded good and there was leads on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you go back and listen to Saint Anger for what it is and try not to hate on it and listen to it, and there is some good music, there is some good songs on there. But
so basically what you're saying is if they would completely redo the album and get their head out of their ass, it could have been pretty good.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I think there's a YouTube video where a fan put the real drum sound in on top of that album. But like to your point, Saint Anger could have been one song. They could have done one song like that. It would have been killer, not the whole album.
Yeah. I mean, even the riffs on that album, I liked a lot of the riffage on that record. Just the song structures and the lyrically, you could tell it was a mess. And I think that's why they went with the production sound that they did, because I really do think that they sat in the studio and go, all right, we've been working on this record for 6 years? Is that the one that they were working 6 years on or something?
Was it that one or Death Magnetic?
When he went to rehab and all that shit, that was Saint Anger, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how long they were living with those songs before they released them, but you could tell they had no fire to them, I guess. They almost sounded like unfinished demos.
Yeah, I agree. Record. But the next album with Death Magnetic, it was like they needed to get back to that old school sound, kind of.
They tried like hell on that record.
Yeah, but they tried too hard, and the songs were way too long. Because I remember somebody took that album and edited it down.
Mm-hmm.
Took like a quarter of the time off of it, and it was better. I think I still have a burn of that somewhere. It was like, just because you have a song that's 10 minutes long doesn't mean it needs to be 10 minutes long. You got repeating that riff over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
You got to stop.
Right. I did like that mini thing that they released afterwards. It's like,
yeah, I remember that.
Magnetic or something like that.
Yeah, it was like
Those songs were actually better than anything on the actual album, I thought.
It was leftovers from that album, right?
Yeah. And I went, well, if this is that direction that they're heading, I wasn't sure at the time if they were actually recorded later or if they were recorded during their sessions. But I was, so that's a good sign. They kind of, they're shorter tracks and they're a little heavier. And I really like the last record a lot. I don't know how you guys feel. I Greeno, you didn't like it, did you?
I was still on the fence. I didn't hate it.
Right.
But it's like, they're never going to be what they were to me. And I just need to come to terms with that. It's more on me than what they've released.
Now, is that because of Cliff's death or? Like, are you like me, like anything with Cliff, you cannot hold a candle to?
To a point. I mean, and I love Injustice. A lot of people hate that album. You know what I mean? A lot of people, they ended with Puppets.
Yep.
But I'm good up until Injustice for All. The Black Album is where they lost me. And it just kept getting worse from there. And it was cool. The last album, they were trying to get back to a more old school sound, but still not, they still got to keep moving forward and all.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to me. And I think I even did a video talking about it. It's like, you know what? It's not a bad album. It's cool, but it's on me. They're never going to make me happy again. And that's just on me, not on them. So I need to cut ties. And to be honest, I doubt if I ever buy anything new from them again.
So. How about you, Core?
So starting with Hardwired to Self-Destruct, I was excited about it. I got on board with a lot of the hype. It was good to see the veterans coming out with a new album. I thought it was a solid listen. I think it had some good tracks on it, but I haven't really revisited it a whole lot. And then if you go back to, like you said, with Cliff, by the time I was getting into Metallica, it was about the same time I learned that Cliff was already gone. Like I didn't hear the news at school or anything like that. It was just like Randy Rhoads. It was like, George, like your comment on Metal Obsession. You find out there's this fantastic, who's playing guitar as Randy Rhoads, and then you find out he passed away at the same time. Yeah. That was a little bit like that for Cliff, for me, watching the VHS tapes of Cliff 'em all and stuff like that. But I like Justice for All. And I thought Cliff's writing, I thought it kind of carried over because he was had some stuff for that album. Yeah. So, and then I think they just tried to do the rest of it, putting it together. I love Justice. When the Black album came out, big change, Bob Rock. I know the big, huge sound, but we were excited about it. We popped the CD in the day it came out, and I loved it. Looking back, but then that's when me and my friends split. I have like some friends are like, they sold out. How can you listen to them any longer? And then I had friends that liked the sound too, as well. So I love Black Album, and then I kind of hung with them and then kind of faded out after that, like I said earlier. But I'd still. My daughter wants to go see him. My oldest daughter, not the one I mentioned earlier, but I'd love to see them live with my daughter. She's never got to see him live, so I want to catch him one more time.
That's cool. I will say one of the things that kind of pushed me away from him is James's vocals. They've just changed too much.
That's true.
And they kind of had to, I guess, to get on the radio. And it all started with the Black album. He lost that gruff, everything.
The gruff, the grit that he had, Bob. That's all Bob Rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Bob Rock wanted him to sing.
Yeah, they wanted to polish him up. If you guys want to make the next step, here's what you got to do.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
They didn't Bob Rock do that at all at that point. I don't think. I mean, I think either way, it doesn't matter who produced that Black album. I think the same success would have happened for them at that time.
Interesting.
Don't you think?
That's a real interesting point. I've never thought of it that way. You're probably right. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what you could do if you could switch that out. Because you look at Bob Rock had just a year or two earlier produced, Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
And what a great sound. It sounded great, but that's where a lot of the fans with Motley Crue left as well.
Yeah.
Now I was a little younger, so I thought that album was fantastic. But after a year or two looking back, you could really start to see the holes come through where it's like, it's just not right. And I wanted to present this question to you guys now that I have you here and people here in the watching online. Mm-hmm. So I noticed there's a big difference between guys that are 3 years older than me, like you guys are. I'm 44. And the music taste through the 80s, kind of where we came in. Like you guys are hugely influenced by Kiss. I like Kiss. You guys like the YNT, TNT, and new wave of British heavy metal, like big time. But when and have almost, you correct me where I'm wrong, almost a disdain for the glam metal, where that's where I kind of came in, and so it has a place in my heart, even though now it's just a place on the shelf. But it seems like you come in because you guys are older than me, right? So you guys were listening to cooler, tougher, great music, and those little punk kids running around listening to Motley Crue are just little pussies,
Nah, not at all. I was one of those punk kids listening to Motley Crue.
Okay.
Sure. No, I mean, I used to work with Brittany Fox, so how much more glam can you get? That's that first album. I don't know if they were looking in a band or the four of them were going to write an old British novel together. That look that they had. They looked like they were, I don't know, the ruffled shirts and all that stuff, but it was crazy. But no, even though I came in with Maiden and Priest and TNT, I think was one of the earlier bands. Obviously other than AC/DC and Kiss, the glam stuff is probably at the time was one of my favorite genres for sure. Especially, I could tell you what album brought me there was LA Guns, Cocked and Loaded.
I love that album.
That's the ultimate sleaze glam rock album to me. That sounded great. It didn't sound like it was recorded in a basement. Like that first Poison record. I think Rick Browdy produced that record.
The production is terrible.
Yeah, it sounds like a tin can. It sounds like a demo tape. And when you first heard, and that was only 2 years before the LA Guns record, but you put those two albums on back to back, and it's like night and day, like Cocked and Loaded, sound production wise, for the time anyway.
Dude, this is a great area to get into because we've kind of touched on this before. Age has a big input on when you get into something, what you get into. So basically, we're running. You're 44, George 47. Is that correct?
40. I just turned 48 in July.
48, and I just turned 51. So we're running about a 10-year almost right here. You know what I mean? So, and I find it very interesting because we talked about this before. It's like where, and LJ and I have talked about this. Like Maiden for me was right at the end of Number of the Beast, going into Peace of Mind. That's kind of where I jumped in.
Wow.
Where, LJ was somewhere in time, I think, right around in there. Maybe the album after that, Seventh Son.
Yeah, I remember him, or you telling me that it was around that era.
Yeah, and it's just and you talking about the glam stuff. I dug the early, if you want to call it glam, the Dokken, Rat, and all that stuff. Motley Crue.
You didn't like the early Gray White.
Yeah, exactly. Until they got up to the crazy bluesy stuff where it was just like, okay.
See, that's where I started liking Great White.
Really?
Because
you're a big blues guy.
I don't know if I don't believe in like reincarnation or afterlife or all that shit, but if there was an opportunity that I was in a past life, I don't know if I was like a blues musician or, right. It's weird. Like I've always been drawn to it, even as a kid. There's something, I think, and it was all pictures then, but there was something about, now I know who it is, but there was something about like seeing Muddy Waters,
right,
sitting in a black and white photo that you had no idea if it was taken last week or 100 years ago. And he's playing acoustic or stuff. And there's just something that drew me to that black and white photo, Muddy. And then, like I said before, when I started really getting into AC/DC and seeing the covers that they were doing, like Chuck Berry and Bill Brunsey, and that drove me to Chuck Berry. Bill Brunsey, I think, was way hard to find when we were at that age because he's more 40s, 50s. And I think at the time, this is just my assessment of it, but I think at the time his records were pretty hard to find in the 80s, maybe. Yeah. I mean, because I remember looking for Bill Brunsey just because AC/DC did a cover of Baby Please Don't Go, and he wrote it. So I don't know. I've always been drawn to the bluesy side, and when I heard Great White, not only do the Mott the Hoople track, but they did it
once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah, they did it pretty honestly, like they did it their kind of their own way, kind of, but it stayed pretty true to the original. And I was like,
man, Jack Russell was just on the Eddie Trunk show. He's a great guy. He's so funny. He tells great stories. I didn't mean to interrupt, but Jack Russell's hilarious.
And he's had a hell of a past 10 years too, right? He was a major alcoholic, and he's almost been dead a couple times.
Well, he was in jail, right?
I thought he was in rehab.
The band started, I think he was in jail.
Oh, back then?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he come out of jail, and the band needed a singer or whatever. But with them, it was like, what's the first album? Lightning Strikes? Is that right?
I thought it was
that's what's on the cover.
Yeah, maybe it is self-titled, and I'm just thinking of the cover.
I have one that's like black with their logo like 5 or 6 times down it.
Yeah, that, and then there's one with like a dark picture of them standing like on some steps.
Oh, that's
maybe the same album. But anyways, those earlier albums were a little more LA, a little more hard rock metal. And then, by the time they really took off with MTV is when the blues crept in, which was cool. And it's not like I hated them or anything, but it was just like I tended to like those earlier albums. But like Corey was saying, like us being older, having a disdain for the glam stuff. It wasn't really that with me. It was, like I said, I loved Rat. Dokken is still one of my all-time favorite bands from the 80s. You know what I mean? But by the time 87, 88 came around, and, Anthrax, Metallica, and Slayer and all that stuff, and then all the underground was creeping in. And then next thing up is Danger, and Warrant. It was too much. I'm like, I'm done with all this stuff. I hated that stuff at the time. Mm-hmm. But then, 15 years later, when music really started sucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You can go back and listen to that stuff now and dig it. Like I have all that stuff in the collection, right about the time, the first Poison album come out and they went mega. That was kind of the end of that style for me. It was like, I dug that first Poison album. It's like a killer, garage rocky kind of album to me, and I love the first Cinderella and all that. But then that stuff, MTV just killed it, man. They just kept pumping them out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go buy some underground magazines and listen to Jag Panzer or something like that. So
now, what did you think of like the second tier bands? Like, I mean, I hate to call them second tier bands, but bands like Junkyard and Dangerous Toys and
like them better. The first
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, the first Junkyard album is fantastic, man. They're like Toro. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool band.
The first record with Walking Shoes.
Yeah. And who else are you saying? Dangerous Toys, that first album. That was too around that time. We had Dangerous Toys and shit. Who was the
was it Badlands too?
That album's fantastic. Yeah, I mean that's a smoking album from beginning.
I always had a soft spot for Dangerous Toys because the first night they were in town, we hung out with them all night till the next morning.
Really?
Yeah, because the first time they were here and we saw them, they were opening for LA Guns at the Tower Theater, and they walked in the wrong door.
Yeah.
So they walked in the lobby of this place with all of us standing around, and I just happened to be standing there back when you could smoke indoors. So I was out having a cigarette out in the lobby. And Jason walks in and he's looking around. He's right by. I didn't see him. And then all of a sudden I feel his hand on my shoulder. And he's like, "Yo, man, can you tell me how to get to the backstage area or something?" I'm like looking at him like, "Are you shitting me right now?"
That's cool.
And we hung out all night. And it's funny because he They played, they were killer. After the show, he was so out of it, I thought he was stoned or something.
Wow.
And here, he fell coming off the stage and rattled his head off of one of the steps. So he was like,
oh my gosh.
We just thought, oh, that's odd. He's out of it, you know. So then they came. Not even 4 months later, they were back with the Cult, and I get a call on my house phone. My wife and I we were living together then. Jason left a message on our house phone letting us know that he was coming to Philly.
That's cool.
It was weird. But he had to look me. He actually had to look me up, and I didn't give him my phone number, so I don't know who he got a hold of or how he got my number. I mean, it was in the phone book, but I don't know how the hell he would remember my last name. So.
One of the guys from Brittany or something, maybe.
Label mates. So yeah, probably he might have got it from the label too.
Yeah, I love that first album by them. And you're right, there was like a ton of like the B level, like Dirty Looks.
They were better than the A level bands.
Yeah, and sure. Some of that may have been so much, importance put on the image at that time, or when Warrant's rolling around in videos and matching white leather outfits and all that, it was just like, this is too much, man.
Yeah, but Angel did it in the 70s.
Yeah, true. And Dokken, like I said, I love Dokken, and they were early on with those crazy outfits and the matching stuff and all. And
I don't know that shit now. Like I see people on TV, like on these singing shows that I don't even watch, but I see the commercials or I see clips because I got my wife and daughter watches it, and I look at these people on there and I'm like, look at this asshole. This guy can't. He just sucks. And then this guy sings his ass off, but yet he's never going to do anything because he doesn't have the look, And it's like, man, I did the same thing. I'm doing the same thing that record labels and guys did in the 80s. Like, look at these fucking guys. Who wants to sign them? I will never listen to them. And it makes you wonder, like, maybe I shouldn't hate on shows like not American Idol, but those talent shows. It's like you don't know what you're getting until you hear the person. Like, never judge a book by its cover, like they always said. But
right. Well, if you think about it, like when we were coming up in the 70s, the only time you saw anybody was in a magazine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
or Christopher Cross. They purposely didn't put Christopher Cross on any of his early records because he looks like he should be sitting next to me in a bath stall, shit or somewhere. You know what I mean? It's not like he's he's the guy next to you at the next desk over, and you're an accountant or something. That's what he looks like.
He looked like a music nerd, from high school,
right,
and talented as shit.
Exactly.
But that was kind of the thing back then, Then MTV came along, and the image thing just got so important.
Like, don't put Christopher Cross in the videos either.
Right. And now we're in the internet age where within 5 minutes you can know everything about any artist. You know what I mean?
Oh, you could be an artist yourself if you have auto-tune and you can rhyme. You can rhyme scheme good. You know what I mean?
But look at Ozzy.
Yeah. How is that happening? Like, I heard his 2 new songs, and for what they're not bad. It's not Zach. Obviously, Zach's not on it. I could tell by the playing. But how is Ozzy? You think it's all auto-tune?
I think it's probably recorded in a studio, and they just take the best snippets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I've heard like 30 seconds. It came on Ozzy's Boneyard, I think it was, when I was in the car, and it was like, next, let's go to Heritage.
I bought them on Amazon, downloaded them. I like Ozzy. I think it's pretty cool what he's doing, but obviously I can see it for what it is. I'm not. Yeah. I'm just doing it because he's 72, 73 and still rock and roll. So,
I mean, I'm happy to hear new Ozzy. I am bummed that Zach's not a part of it. I mean, I really thought from the other, I really thought a couple years ago that Zach even said that they were recording together. So I don't know what this whole record's about. So we'll find out in a couple of weeks, I guess.
I don't know. With me, it's just I'm the old man, get out of my yard kind of guy. I'm done.
You're like me, man. I think you're
Get off my lawn.
You're burning out on all that shit, right?
I'm done with digital recordings. I'm done.
Me too.
I haven't bought like the last Overkill. There's a few new metal bands that I followed.
Oh, you mean you're done with bands that record digitally?
I'm done.
Gotcha.
I'm not buying anything else. I can't take it anymore. And again, and that's on me. I'm the old grumpy fuck.
Now you've been telling me that for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
You really have a problem with a lot of the drum sound on these records, don't you?
I have a problem with all of it, man, because it's just like these band Testament come back and it was awesome. They're back, and that album was great. And the next album come out, it's like, well, that's cool. Sounds like the last album. And the next album come out, it's like it's exactly the last couple albums, you know what I mean? Not down to, sounding song wise, just sound wise. And that the only thing I can figure is when we were coming up, it was analog in a studio somewhere, and every studio sounded a little different. There was an art to it. You know what I mean? Like, Led Zeppelin, getting Bonham's drums sounding like that. Nobody's drums sounded like that. There's an art to it. But now you have a computer, you can sound like anything you want to sound like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like Kix put out a new album. It was so cool when they put out that album. It's like, man, it's killer. And I got it, and it's digitally recorded, and I think it was recorded in the bass player's house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. And I understand in this day and age, everybody probably has to do that.
We did that 20 years ago with the last Britney Fox record. We recorded that record in Johnny D's basement in his townhouse in Jersey.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, it's just. And again, that's me. I'm just being an old cranky fucker, but that's just the way it is. I'm not
way cheaper to record like that than it is to actually book a studio.
Buy the tape and all that in a big studio. And that's what I mean. There was an art to it, man. You can go back, like with Corey doing these heavy 70s, I know he's gotten deep into that. I see the album behind him there.
Yeah.
But even some of those bands that were CD level, they still went somewhere and recorded that, and there's still a charm to some of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
But today it's like everybody, you just kind of use the same programs, the same simulators and all that stuff. And
don't forget to trigger your drums.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just done with it.
There's a unique sound to it. And there's a lot of artists out there that are still doing, mostly or all analog recordings. And I think you just got to hunt them down. There's a local band here called Mount Carmel. They record analog, and then they have the records recorded and pressed and produced at musical studios here in Columbus. And there's a certain sound to it. Like you said, you mentioned the 70s Hard and Heavy. One of the albums I want to show next is Papo's Blues. It's his second album. It's this guitar player from Argentina. Mm-hmm. And when I played that, I finally landed an original 70s album. And when I drop the needle on it, sit back and listen to it, you can hear that studio sound. Mm-hmm. Now that I've been to musical studio, now that I've got that record and it's got a certain sound to it, you can hear the tube amps. You know what I mean? You can kind of hear that essence. It's very satisfying, and it is it's a big thing that's missing from today's recordings.
Yeah, Mount Carmel's cool, by the way. I have first couple albums by them, I think.
Oh, nice! You've heard of them. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely cool. To me, they're part of that retro 70s kind of, they got that feel to them. But yeah, I mean, and it worked both ways with the studio recordings. Like sometimes they would never capture the band, like Stevie Ray Vaughan is just amazing, but his records are, to me, always lacked a little bit. They never captured that dude on vinyl as to when you saw him live,
Well, there's definitely guys and bands that are more of live band than they are a studio band. Metallica, I think, being one of them.
Yeah. I'll tell you, a new one today is Mothership.
Mothership's fantastic.
Oh my God, dude. I had that first album and it was like, okay.
You turned me on to them.
It's like they're pretty cool. And we went to see Corrosion of Conformity, and Mothership was just opening up. We got lucky and it's like, well, that's cool. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about these guys. And dude, they come out and just blew the place apart. And to be quite honest, when COC come on, it was like, yeah, good luck, guys. Yeah. And Mothership was, I'm telling you, that ranks up there one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was in a small little bar down in this little town in Virginia, just kind of out of the blue. And I'm like, I got to revisit these guys. What am I, I missed something. And I went back and I had a couple albums, I think, at the time. And I've even picked up a couple since then. And they're cool. Never touched.
Artwork's amazing too.
No, yeah.
My records, but
man, a 3-piece. And we're standing there, a friend and I, and this little dude's rolling around on the stage, moving stuff around. He's got like this weird little hat on. And, you don't think anything of him. And all of a sudden he takes his hat off and the hair kind of comes down. He pulls his shirt off and he's just covered in tattoos. And I'm like, is this guy a roadie or what's going on? Next thing you know, he straps on a Gibson B and plugs into an orange amp. And it was fucking on, man. That's one of the best shows I've seen in the last 10 years.
Nice.
Let me ask you guys, as you get older, do you find yourselves getting away from metal stuff and more into different avenues, different types of music? Or I mean, I've always been into different types, but as I get older, I notice myself listening to less of the heavy stuff and more, I don't know. It's weird because I'm actually more into punk and old punk and blues and
right.
I don't know what else. But
go ahead, Corey.
Yeah, so I always have that metal core, like going back and listening to the old albums, but it just doesn't do the same thing that it did for me in the 80s. Yep. But for the most part, so like Power Trip, they released Nightmare Logic. That album blew me away. It was like my childhood all over again, So in those aspects, I'm really enjoying it. The 70s, hard and heavy. Those obscure bands really do it for me, but that's not metal. But Greena's always showing some new wave of British heavy metal or some undiscovered band like Winterhawk. Jazz. I've always I mentioned earlier when I was a kid, my dad had some jazz records, and I would listen to it as a kid. Herbie Hancock, George Benson, and had that seed planted. So yeah, my jazz collection's grown a little bit. And I do enjoy listening to that. But I think I would say no overall. I think once a metalhead, always a metalhead. And I'm always, seeking that out. Like Aaron, Metal Theologian, recently showed Raven Bitch. Are you guys familiar with these guys?
No.
He has this EP, and I went and found it online and downloaded it. It just blew me away. So I think as far as listening to some jazz and going down some different avenues with some indie rock here and there, maybe some alternative here and there, alternative metal. No, pretty much once a metalhead, always a metalhead.
Same with me, but I've always liked to stretch out and check out different stuff. Probably since I was about 20. I really got looking around. But yeah, same way, always metalhead. However, not modern. I mean, very, very select with metal from 90 on.
Bands?
Huh?
You mean the newer bands, right?
Yeah. It
was
was
new that I really knew band wise, and I don't know. Other, I still think of new bands like Airborne and
right
shit that's been around for 15 years.
Right,
the last 15 years have been a blur anyway. So
now it was cool whenever this whole new wave of traditional heavy metal started. I was eating that up, man.
5 years ago, man.
And I got a ton of that stuff, but it's kind of ran its course now. You know what I mean? And before that there was like a retro thrash thing that was going on, like Evil and all those bands. And
they weren't quite as good they weren't quite as good as the retro new wave.
No.
There was some really out of that new wave of British metal, like Resurgence thing. There were a lot of really cool new bands.
Yeah, it got to the point. It's still rolling, and I couldn't keep up anymore. And like any kind of scene, it was starting to get repetitive, and you got your majors and then the B level, and now we're into the C level and D levels. But now I'm kind of same way, always a metalhead, but I mean, I got a nice big punk section. And actually the years in the VC and watching Aaron, Metal Theologian, has kind of got me going with
shit, man.
Yeah.
Well,
he got me kind of going
shit too. You got some stuff that I'd be like, what the hell? Where did you find that? But then Aaron will show something like, all right, well, I've never fucking seen that. Where did you get that?
Yeah. His metal collection is, nobody's going to touch that.
No,
but he kind of got me going with the jazz stuff,
I can't do jazz yet.
No, I like, it's only a certain,
more like a hard bop, like, or
the Blue Note sound, basically.
That's all decent stuff, man.
Yeah, I can't do the freeform avant-garde or whatever. Yeah, that makes absolutely no goddamn sense to me. But
do a lot of Blue Note stuff at work when we when the mood hits us.
But I'm just totally dipping my toe into that. I mean, over the last 4 or 5 years, picking up stuff here and there, and
Aaron, Corey, let me ask you this: do you think a lot of the old bands, Greeno, you too, a lot of the old bands like Junkyard, say, well, LA Guns, like that era and that style, that are putting out records today, do you find that a lot of these bands are putting out better quality music now than they did in the 80s? Or do you think a lot of it is the 80s is the classic stuff and any of the new shit is just kind of whatever it is, what it is?
No, I think I picked up the new Junkyard album, and I think compared to their debut album, I like the debut album better. But as far as production and musicianship and lyrics, these guys they're sober now, right? They're making different life choices, and they're playing better, probably better than ever before. And a lot of them have like the vocals sound astonishingly good.
Yeah.
But then going back to your other question, I wanted to kind of touch on that one more time. And going back to the question of metal, am I still a metalhead? Am I still listening and buying metal like I did back in the 80s or 90s? I guess the answer would be no. If I started to think about it like from a broader perspective. I'm 44. The 15, 20-year-old kids today, they're into the grindcore, death. So in that aspect, I'm disconnected. I am totally disconnected from today's music scene. I was in a record store with a vinyl community member, Steve Carlson. He makes these videos. So there were actually a couple kids in there, and they were making fun of us. Well, we were sitting there talking our music stuff, and I'm wearing my clothes for work. And Steve's dressed very conservatively. And we must have just looked like a couple of old, tired guys, just talking, from yesteryear. And I knew when I walked, I kind of had like that little tingling on the back of my neck, like these little punks over here. I was like, that's all right. That was me when I was their age. So I'm completely disconnected from the metal world today. Yeah. And I'm excited when Junkyard releases a new album, or I hear that this band or that band's getting together, and I'm going to buy that record and enjoy it, even though it may not snap me back to being as good as it is that day. Because you always got that nostalgia factor, is the X factor.
Excited? Is it sad that I'm excited for a new Huey Lewis record? I just saw the new video today. Huey Lewis in the news. It's called Weather.
I thought he passed away.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think he's doing very well, but he's still kicking.
Yeah, the first single was okay. It wasn't, it is what it is, but I was surprised to see a brand.
I was thinking of Robert Palmer. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Robert Palmer. Yeah, he passed.
I wish I could be like you guys. I just can't do it anymore. It's just like I don't get up for any new releases anymore. And this is happening. Huh?
The Super Suckers is coming.
Okay, I'll give you that one. I will definitely be picking up the Super Suckers. So I guess there are a couple here and there. Maybe I'm lucky if it's a couple a year.
Me too.
Put it that way. And 5 years ago, it was constant, man. Dude, I still have the last Judas Priest album. What was it called? The one just come out? Firepower. Still on my shelf. I haven't spun it yet.
It's killer. It's actually, go play that. I love it. It's a great album.
It is a good album.
Same with the last Anthrax album. I haven't even opened that one yet.
That one's not quite as good as the one before, but it's got some decent stuff on it.
Yeah, For All Kings, I think it had a couple good tracks, but it kind of just went on and on, a little repetitive. It was a step back, but worship music, oh my gosh. It's a killer album.
That's an amazing record.
I don't know. A switch flipped or something, man. It's just where not interested anymore. And I do need to go spin those. I got them. I need to spin them. But like I said, I didn't pick up the last Testament. I didn't pick up the last Overkill, and I have no plans to. And it's just, and that's, like I said, totally on me. Something switched.
Yeah, I find myself getting away from a lot of that stuff now. Like you said, Greeno.
Yeah.
I don't even think I bought I mean, I have the new Overkill, but I buy the CD. Like, I refuse to pay $30 for something I'm
right.
not 100% sold on. You know what I mean?
However,
That's right.
I'm grabbing as much 80s reissue metal as I can. Anytime something pops up, from all these little European labels, High Roller and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if it's rare and something that I don't or never heard, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
something different, just something cool, then yeah, I'm all over.
Yeah. I mean, I still have that quest, you know what I mean? I'm still looking, but it's like I'm kind of in that era now. I'm stuck in that era, I guess. I'm that asshole. So
it's funny, man. I go to walk into a record store and walk out not buying anything and feeling weird, but it happens a lot more often than it does where I buy a stack of records now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm only picking up a record here or there, or trying to get a deal on a box set, or trying to get a sale or a promo code, or I'm trying to hunt down a collectible and paying up for it. That's my life. But like you said, I'm always checking in digitally with the Overkill and stuff like that. But it's taken more and more for me to want to buy the record and put it on my shelf.
Right.
Yeah. Especially now, especially the vinyl. Like, I'll still take a chance on an album on CD if it's like $10. I'm like, yeah, what the hell? It looks cool. Or if it's a band I like from before and something new, then I'm like, all right, $10, I'll buy it, or whatever it is, $8. Because they are cheap as shit now. And that's basically, I've been buying way more CDs lately than vinyl for sure. For sure.
It's all going to come back around.
I think
That's right.
I think the vinyl although we're getting numbers like it's been the highest vinyl sales wise was 2019 that it's been ever.
Wow.
And it outsold. Is that the one? Is it CDs outsold digital this year again? Or
I thought CDs were in a major decline, and that
it's all streaming now.
Yeah, but there was something. The CD sales were definitely. I believe CD sales were up this year compared to the past years.
Oh, okay.
But the vinyl sales topped out again this year, which is, to me, we're not seeing it business wise here. I don't know where people are, but I guess they're buying their records at what's that?
HMV, Barnes and Noble,
Hot
Topic. Yeah.
I thought it would have died out by now.
Me too.
It surprised me. And what totally blew my mind was the whole cassette thing coming back.
I still think that was not. I think that was 100, maybe 50% of it was just word of mouth. Like, hey, let's try and make this happen. Because I've never have anybody ask for cassettes at the shop, but I know they have events where it's just cassettes only.
Yeah, all the shops around here sell them. I mean, it's nuts.
We won't take them in.
I
think we might stop selling new vinyl this year. This might be the year that we actually start, not bringing in new product and just concentrating on used more.
It's probably a good business move. I mean, with most of your profits are going to come in from used vinyl, and the new stuff you can grab on Amazon. How can you compete with that?
Yeah.
But I like cassettes. I'll buy them every. I like cassettes, and I'm waiting for a really nice tape deck to get repaired, so I can get it up here on the shelf. But like Death Angel, their new album Humanicide from last year came out on cassette. And there's some oddities, like Judas Priest Firepower came out on cassette, and I just buy them for the novelty of it. And I've got a really nice about 200 thrash and metal albums from the 80s that I want to try and find a way to show. How many do you guys have? A bunch of tapes still, or?
I got boxes of them still.
I may have 100 cassettes, maybe. I was never a cassette guy, and I think that right here is the age thing. You know what I mean? Corey's definitely the age of the cassette. You know what I mean?
This is the new Wild Hearts on cassette.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
It's weird though. It's a slip,
Yeah.
like a single.
100 of them, but I got it through the website. But.
Right on. The only cassettes I've kept,
my cassettes too.
the only ones I kept were like rarity metal stuff. So
that's exactly what I did. I got rid of all the commons and kept like the demos and all that stuff.
Now, don't get me wrong, I've recorded the hell out of some stuff on cassettes. You know what I mean? I had probably over the years thousands of recorded cassettes, home recordings
for your car.
I was never one to buy them, pre-recorded ones.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. I bought them quite a bit.
So I don't mean to.
I was gonna say, Corey, didn't I give you like a cassette thing? You redid it and all that, right? Painted it.
I did. I painted it white and screwed it into the wall. It looks fantastic, but unfortunately, cool. I'm leaving it behind at my old house because if I take it down, it'll have a bunch of screw holes. And the people buying my house, they love my music room, and they wanted me to leave all the stuff there. So they wrote it in. Yeah, the IKEA shelf and the Polk speakers, and the CD holder and the cassettes. They loved it and they wanted it all to stay. And I was like, that's all right. I have to figure out another way to do that. But yeah, thank you. Those look great. Made the tapes look great for years.
That's cool. Now somebody else is enjoying them.
Yeah.
So let me put back. So yeah, I've enjoyed talking about all this stuff with you guys. We were going down some rabbit trails, but I mean, it's all good stuff. But
especially me, I usually ramble on about fucking moronical shit. So
it doesn't seem like we're doing too much rambling, man. It seems like we're pretty much on point. I think we're bringing up good.
I'm the rambler. Greeno's got to reel me in every now and then.
Somebody's got to do it.
Or else I'll get on to some tangent somewhere.
Hey, I got one more.
Okay.
Anybody seen this?
Oh shit! No, I never saw that.
That's cool, and it's actually I can't remember where I got this. Maybe just off Amazon or something.
Wow, is that a real deal?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were out of Florida, correct?
Yep.
And this is interesting. It's another one of those bands that just like kept shooting himself in the foot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you guys could have did more, and it's like every decision they made seemed to be the wrong decision. You know what I mean? But if you ever get a chance, check that out. Very interesting. I think it's just called Tough Luck. So.
Wow, I've never seen that. I mean, I have the album, but I have the second one. I think they released on CD about 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Tough Luck 2 or something.
Dude, you put me on the spot. I can't even remember now. I'd have to go look.
Yeah.
And then probably everybody's seen Hype from that era. Yeah, the grunge thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, something like that I probably wouldn't watch.
Yeah. You're not a grunge fan at all, huh?
At all. I loved the first Alice in Chains record. I loved the first Stone Temple Pilots record. Even Pearl Jam's first record.
Yeah.
Anything else after that, you can have that shit, man. Oh, Temple of the Dog. That Temple of the Dog is actually what got me into all those other bands. So
that's cool. That's kind of a little bit where I went whenever the glam thing just got out of control.
I know you told me you went grunge heavy, right?
Yeah, until like 91, whenever Nevermind just hit the roof. It was like, you guys got to stop, man. And everybody sound like them, you know what I mean? But like when I think I've shared this before, we had Bleach on cassette that just said Nirvana Bleach.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't know the song title. Somebody had recorded it, and it was just being passed around. Everybody else was recording it. And we were all listening to the shit out of this thing. No idea who they were, what they looked like, where they were from, what label they were on. And then, finally we ended up figuring that out. And then Nevermind come out, and it just went nuts. But, yeah, I mean, we were listening to early Mudhoney, Green River, all that stuff, The
first time I saw Smells Like Teen Spirit, I was looking at the thing and looking at the video, and I think my wife and I think we just started living together, and I saw the Teen Spirit, and I was looking at the TV, and she must have been looking at my face like, oh my god, he fucking hates this. I remember, I think I looked over and went, these fucking guys will never make it. These guys. I've said that a lot and was wrong a lot.
Dude, it still blows my mind. I remember hearing when Nirvana signed to DGC for like crazy money, and it's like, what are they thinking? Very cool band, but
Yeah, I know.
And then Nevermind come out, and you know it kind of come out, and then when Smells Like Teen Spirit hit, you know, on the MTV, and it just went nuts. It was like I never in a million years would have expected that.
No, and that's why I think when I said to her, I'm like, God, they suck. That'll never be. I mean, you don't even fucking hear what you can't even tell what he's saying.
Yeah.
So you're saying, Greener, you're saying The Hype is a good documentary though, if you want to check out the kind of the grunge scene and like the Sub Pop label and all that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen this?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, dude, definitely check this out. I mean, if you're interested, even if you're not all that interested in it, it's pretty cool. And I'm trying to remember. Yeah. So this was the later one that kind of documented everything, you know, as it after it exploded and everything. But there was another one called 1991, the year punk broke or something like that. That one's interesting too, because that's a little pre-explosion, you know. But Hype's definitely worth checking out. I mean,
okay.
And this whole era, you know, and all these bands, there was such cynicism, you know, and it's like a lot of them were getting huge, but at the same time, I think they almost felt like, what the fuck is going on here? Why are we so big? And, you know, so.
All right, Corey, I want to know your guilty pleasure as far as music goes. Like in your collection, what album do you have in your collection that you think we'd be surprised that you would have?
I'm not too sure. You've probably seen them all in the videos. Like you said, like the first Poison record was, you probably find that one in there. Like the LA Guns.
But I'm saying that you're not your favorite kind of music, but like that one album that, oh man.
Do you jam out the Britney Spears occasionally? Right. What's going on?
No Britney Spears in the collection at all. I got some prog. I do have some 70s stuff, you know, like Cat Stevens, progressive bands like Yes, those kind of things.
He wants to answer the question.
I got nothing to hide. I'm looking through what's on the shelves right now, trying to think of something that's pretty good.
Or is there just anything, even might not be in your collection, that like when it's on the radio, you're like, this is pretty cool?
Jack Johnson. I got some Jack Johnson in the collection.
Yeah, we sell a lot of him.
Christian metal. I do have contemporary Christian artists like Keith Green, Amy Grant, Petra. Though I don't show those a lot. Oh, I got like a whole section of 80s stuff, like from In Excess.
There you go.
Yeah, I got In Excess, Tears for Fears. You know, I got like a whole cube I just dedicate to 80s. Cool. You know, Talking Heads, that kind of stuff. I don't really talk about that a whole lot.
That's all.
Kaja Gugu if you need it.
What did you say?
I said I got some Kaja Gugu. Wasn't that the name of that band?
Yeah, Too Shy.
Yeah, there you go.
Dude,
he whips it out.
I got fucking 80s out the ass too, man. I
was
just listening last night. Here you go. Here's what I was listening to last night. Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah.
Fucking Come On Eileen and Jackie Wilson Said. You ever hear that song?
The Dexys song, Midnight Runners? Yeah.
Jackie Wilson Said from Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Yeah.
It's a cover. Mm-hmm. I think it's I want to say it's like Jackson Brown, maybe, but it's a cover. It was their second single after "Come On Eileen." It's awesome. I've been listening to them and Prince. Prince is, dude. I finally found a good audio copy of the Undertaker thing from the mid '90s. If you don't know,
I remember when he died. You were like, I had no idea you were a big Prince fan.
I'm a huge Prince fan, big time, and it's all because of my aunt. My aunt, she's like 6 years older than me, and it's all because of her that I like Prince. That was her, her favorite when she was a teenager. So
right, that's cool.
But he did this thing in, I think it was mid '90s. He used to do these videos, and what he would do is like have a little mini movie kind of thing, kind of like a long extended play. Remember the old extended play VHS? Like Maiden did a couple of them, I think, and they were called like metal EPs at the time. Yeah. They would do like a 45-minute documentary or a small show or any. But anyway, I guess his label of all people would do these videos in Japan. They would release them, but they were like 45 minutes to an hour. Well, he did this one. It was called The Undertaker, and it was him and two other guys, and it was just like a jam session thing. And there was a little mini story throughout the song because they would play live at Paisley Park during these things.
That's cool.
And the one that he did called The Undertaker, it's like 7 songs. It's 3 guys, and he shreds, man.
Wow.
Like, it's unbelievable. I would
so did that get officially released, or did you find a dude?
I would imagine now that he passed, the way that the Prince stuff has been being cranked out over the last 2 years, I'm sure we'll see something of it at some
That's
point.
Cool.
But if you can find any of that the mid Prince mid 90s stuff, and you want something like guitar driven R&B, I would definitely check out The Undertaker. I think it's on YouTube. You can watch it. And
that's cool.
Prince's Chaos and Disorder album from like 95, 94, somewhere in there. Probably one of my favorite Prince records.
Are you a Prince fan, Corey?
I have a lot of respect for Prince. I don't have a lot of albums. I mean, I remember him from Purple Rain, and of course, I've got 1999 original, and of course, some of his epic live performances that you can catch on YouTube and stuff like that. He deserves all the credit that he gets, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge Prince fan.
I'm the same way. Just like I still remember being young, and what was it, a little red Corvette and all that with that dude, the bass player, with like the Japanese.
Oh yeah,
that's what caught my attention, and I really started digging that, and never followed much after that. And again, he's one of these dudes who wrote some incredible songs, and I just know what's been on the radio. I've never delved into it.
The way that guy, musician wise, he could play anything. It was weird. Like I saw him, man, I want to say it was like late 90s maybe, at the Tower Theater in Philly. He played 3 hours.
Wow.
Dude, I was just enamored watching him play guitar just alone. I mean, I was never I'm not a huge fan of like his later 90s, like the real R&B stuff. And when he started doing, I don't know, it wasn't really hip hop, but it was more like he went back to the R&B shit. And that kind of lost me. Like I don't think I bought or listened to any of the later Prince records, but I would say like 1999 up through, I don't know, somewhere around along the mid 90s is probably my favorite era.
I'm surprised there hasn't been a huge documentary on him released yet, or maybe there has, and I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, that's a good point. There's so many that need to be done that they haven't produced yet. That would be one. That would be a good one to start with.
Well, we were talking about when we started this video, we're kind of going to do live and documentary and all that kind of thing. So I think we're about ready to wrap up, but I wanted to mention a couple live things I pulled out just to show if nobody's seen the Ben Folds 5. And
that would be something that
West 54
guilty pleasure for you, because I would never think that you would have Ben Folds 5 CD.
Me either. I'm shocked. I'm sitting here shocked right now.
Have you ever seen this? It's live at sessions at West 54th.
No, I've definitely heard his stuff, but it's not something that I would.
I'm not a huge Ben Folds 5 fan, but I saw that this was a show that was on PBS years ago, and they showed up on this show, and I just kind of caught it. It's freaking mind blowing. It's these 3 dudes, you know what I mean? You know, everybody knows Ben Folds 5, but they made such a goddamn racket on this show.
That's the Prince Undertaker. When we're done, just Google that.
I'll check it out.
Just listen to the music parts. Like I think they have them separated that you could just watch him and the 2 other guys jamming.
Right.
They do like Honky Tonk Woman. He does a 10-minute blues thing called The Ride that he used to do live, but he would only do like a 5-minute version. But
right.
It's the same thing like that. That almost sounds to me like my Ben Folds, like your Ben Folds is my Prince Undertaker.
Well, this is just, I mean, I'm assuming you guys have heard them before anyways. They're an odd band to begin with.
Yeah.
But like, you know, the bass player kicking on a distortion pedal and just going nuts. You know what I mean? It's like, this is really interesting. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's not on YouTube. Highly suggest it if you ever get a chance, check that out.
Sure, there might be some clips for sure.
And this is a boot, but it came out, I think, in Japan on Laserdisc. And it's April Wine live in London.
Oh, wow.
And this is from, well, actually, this is saying to come out on Cherry Red in the UK in 2008, but I just have a burn of it. But, dude, this is around the Nature of the Beast, kind of that era. And talk about tripped out. I don't know who was doing the effects and everything for this show, but man, if
they went total early 80s on it.
What's that?
Did they go total early 80s effects?
Oh, it's like you just got to watch it. It's just like insane, man. Some of the stuff's going on and you're like, what the fuck, man? Everything just keeps doing that video repeating thing and sliding and all this stuff. It's awesome, man. And I like the band from this era. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but if you ever get a chance, check that out. It's pretty cool. And I'll share one last one for a live thing. One of my all-time favorites.
God, dude, you that was one of the first things you ever sent me, the double LP of that.
Really?
Yep.
That's cool.
That was a VCLT probably 7 years ago.
Holy crap, man. Corey, you ever heard?
No, I haven't seen that one.
This is
I'm familiar with Lizzie Borden, of course, but I haven't seen that concert.
This is basically the concert for the double live Murderous Metal Roadshow. But it's just one of my favorites, man. And I think this might be out of print already.
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah, and going for some money. Sadly, somebody needs to put it back into print. But just so fun. I mean, you know, it's like definitely took a little from Alice Cooper to put in their show, put it that way. But Lizzie Borden was one of my favorites from the 80s. I mean, I think that band should have got more love. I think he was a fantastic singer. You know what I mean?
Well, Greeno, who's your guilty pleasure? You didn't answer us yet, I don't think.
I was trying to think of one, and then you mentioned Jackson Browne, so I'll say Jackson Browne.
That's a good one.
I have Lawyers in Love, and oh shit, what was the other one around that time?
The one with Lido on it.
Maybe, I can't remember now. I have a couple of his albums, but I always like Jackson Browne.
Yeah,
that 80s Jackson Browne. Or late 70s, I guess.
I picked this up at work this week.
Neil Diamond.
Yeah. It's all
nothing wrong with that.
On one disc.
My wife's a huge Neil Diamond fan.
I fucking love Neil Diamond.
George says, I fucking love Neil Diamond.
I do, man. I do. It's I mean, rock, metal, blues, punk is always my favorite, but goddamn, I love some. You
can't only have one thing. If you're doing that, you're boring. You know, to me, it's like, man, reach out, you know.
Especially Morris Day and the motherfucking time.
I get burned on metal, you know.
What's that?
I said I get burned on metal. I'll dive into
punk, I do too.
You know, and then I'll dive into, like, I love the 90s alt country scene, you know, Wilco and Sunvolt.
Oh,
and
yeah.
All that stuff. So
Jason and the Scorchers. Are you into the Scorchers?
Hell yeah. All right, we're about an hour and 50 into this, dude.
Yeah, we are. That was a quick hour 50.
Yeah, we might.
It went quick.
Huh?
It went by quick.
Well, yeah, we're definitely going to do more in the future with Corey.
Hell yeah, man.
We'll have him back on again.
Definitely.
Thanks for having me on.
There's definitely more things I want to pick his brain about, especially the next time we do a video doing more of the I'm curious to see A, how many record stores you hit, and B, what your favorite. Make a top 5 list for us.
I can do that. Yeah, that's a good idea.
That'd be
cool.
Yeah,
we never even really touched on that. All the awesome videos you do, you know, of the different record stores as you travel.
Yeah, I thought at the beginning that's what got me into subscribing to his channel. Was I'm like, wow, he went to like 3 different stores over the past month or so. So not even in your area. I mean, I guess at the time, or maybe you still do travel a lot for work, and
you were doing them all over the country, man.
Right, yeah, with family vacations and then with work travel, I was hitting anywhere and everywhere I would go. But yeah, I'll get some numbers together for you and be ready for that next time.
That'd be awesome, man. Because that's definitely we'll hook that up for the next one. Probably.
Didn't you do Ides while we were in Pittsburgh that time?
Yeah, so I did do Ides. I think I deleted that one now, but that's a great story because we the guy that what was his name is Pittsburgh Metal Joe something Pittsburgh Joe.
Yeah,
Pittsburgh Joe.
So George, yeah, there's this character. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he was hired from the metal show, and he did the earlier voiceovers to introduce the metal show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Eddie Trunk and everybody, and we bumped into him at the. Greeno and I were just flipping through records, and this character comes in making all kinds of noise, talking and laughing. And the side of his head, it says like the metal show is like shaped into the side of his head. I started talking to him, and then I end up floating him some cash to do a promo for my VC channel.
That's right.
And,
I've seen he does the intro on a couple of the videos I watched, I think.
And yeah, I threw him in there a couple of times for fun. I mean, it's a long time ago now. But he walked around the store and showed some movies that he liked. It was pretty wild.
Dude, cool. I totally forgot about that till right now. That's awesome.
That's cool. Well, cool. We'll save all that story for next time too. But we'll definitely we'll hook it up probably next month or the month after, something like that. Once we get rolling through everybody that we want to hit up. And
cool. Before we leave here, Corey, where can they find you on YouTube?
Oh yeah. So some promotion. Click the link below or go check out my channel at Just Add Vinyl. I also do a podcast with John's Record Rack. He's got a really good channel too. And we've got a lot of discussions on some top 20s of the 1980s, 90s, 2000s up right now. So it's a lot of cool stuff going on in the vinyl community. And if you feel like you want more, check out those links below and subscribe if you get a chance.
Cool.
And also spread the word about the Mancave of Doom as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on doing, even if you wanted to do your own kind of show here, or you know what I mean, we'll hook it all up. And we don't want to be just me and Greeno all the time. I think we want to kind of branch off. I mean, Greeno and I'll have this show always, but we always wanted to do. My vision of it was have guys from the older VC guys have their own kind of podcast or interviews with certain other VC members that we may not know personally, like Greeno and I may not know that you might know, stuff like that.
Yeah, one comes to mind right now is Eli. His channel was MB Drummer, and then now he does Kiss Meets the Podcast. He's drummer for Biogenesis, and he's in a local band called This Blessed Hatred. I think he'd be great to have on your show here.
That'd be cool. Heck yeah.
We'll definitely obviously hook up offline and go from there. But
okay,
we definitely want to keep everybody together, and I think.
Are you anywhere else, Corey? Like on Instagram or?
No, I actually don't do any social media except for YouTube.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm. My Instagram, I think I got rid of all mine too, except for Facebook.
I'm on Facebook to repost funny, stupid shit. That's about it.
I was doing the political stuff and got burned out.
I am on YouTube. Or YouTube.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. And all I do is I don't know how that hashtag bullshit works. I don't use any of that. I just take a picture. Hey, watching this, and I post it on Instagram. So.
Because I see it when I had Instagram, it would pop up on my screen on my phone when Greeno would post like something, and I would look at it and go, "Greeno's watching Frankenstein."
Yeah, that's about what I do. So,
well, cool, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I really can't believe we've been on 2 hours already. But definitely, Corey, I want to thank you for coming on, man. That was awesome. We definitely want to have you back for sure.
Yeah. Thanks everybody in the chat.
Yeah, man.
Keeping up with that. I actually saw Corey was replying to a couple of people in there.
I'm bad at looking.
Multitasking.
Yeah.
I'm bad at looking at the chats.
That's what we need. We need somebody else in here all the time looking at chats. And
I have an idea. I'll talk to you offline about that too. I'm going to try and figure out a way to have somebody here kind of not edit, but kind of go through things as we're on. So
yeah. Hey, dumbasses, look at the chat. Somebody's asking you a question.
Well, I thought you were talking to me. I'm used to somebody calling me a dumbass like at least 6 times a day. So
Nah, I've heard that occasionally.
Yeah. I asked my wife if she wanted to be part of a podcast with you and your wife, Greeno, and
what did she say?
I don't know what I should say or what I should do.
My wife was like, "Hell yeah,
yeah,
I'll rip you apart on video."
She'd be the first one up there, like, look at these fucking losers. All they do is listen to metal.
No, I think it'd be a good idea. What was that movie that came out in the 90s, like the President's Wives Club? But yeah, get all the wives of all of us record nuts and get them together in a chat room would be hilarious.
That's kind of what we were talking about. It's like it would be interesting to hear the wives' point of view, which I know what it's going to be, but dealing with our dumbasses collecting records for all these years, dragging them to record stores and shows and everything.
Dude, we may come out of that podcast balls.
Bruised a little bit.
That might not be such a good idea.
We might have to record that one. Don't do it live.
Yeah, I'll take it. I don't give a shit. Well, cool. Corey, again, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. I can't wait to do it again for sure. Because like I said, I got I got quite a few things to pick your brain about. Greeno, my brother, as always. It's been a good time.
Yeah, we don't know who we're going to have next show. We'll be reaching out to somebody. Maybe Vance, kind of talked to him the other night about it. So,
and I'm going to mention it again at the end of this podcast, but LJ, we're coming for you, brother.
I got on him again, too. It's like, dude.
I said, LJ, I'm going to find out where you move and come and peek in your window until you come do our podcast with us. I missed that dude. I haven't talked to him even text-wise, nothing.
I text him maybe once a week, once every couple weeks, and then we'll go crazy, text him for a day, and then we don't talk for a couple weeks.
And I know you keep me informed that everything's cool with them, so that's the most important thing. That
they're doing great up there.
So doing good. So
we do an email about once a year. I'll send him an email, and then he usually gets back to me right away. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like you send those emails out every once in a while, just like, hey, here's what's going on. How's everybody going? I dig that, man. I'm like. And then everybody starts chiming in, and then everybody's quiet.
Yeah. I always check my email on my phone, and I never have my phone with me. So, like you guys, seriously, like me answering you back this morning, I think it was on text that fast, never really happens. I'm sure Greeno knows because I leave my phone at my desk at the house, and I don't need it when I'm home. But I'll periodically come back and check, to see if anybody called or anything. So.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This was fun. Can't wait to do it again. Episode 5 will be probably with around a week or so, something like that. But thanks again, Corey Greeno. As always, thank you.
All right.
And we'll talk to everybody real soon.
All right. See you guys later.
See you.